Welcome to episode 13 of the Loft. Today we have Kerry Dunphy.
Thanks.
What's
Hi.
up, Kerry?
This is crazy. It's my first
I know.
interview.
I'm excited. Your first podcast. So
Yeah.
I'm honored to have you
First one. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for having me.
on. Yeah. So you're very big into writing, right? So
I love writing.
talk a little bit about the start of your blog.
Okay. Ever since I was little, I loved writing, and I kind of like didn't even realize it in a way.
Yeah.
Like I didn't take like writing classes or anything, but I had like a diary. I remember it was like hot pink.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I used to write in it all day. And as I like grew older, I think in like high school, I would like still write, but not as much as I did when I was little.
Right.
And once I got to college, I actually didn't know what I wanted to study, so I started with communications just because.
Yeah.
like
it's very
basic.
broad.
Yeah.
It's broad.
And then as I think it was my junior year, I decided to go to Penn State, and that's when I was like, I love writing, and I was talking to one of my advisors, and he was like, why don't you try like broadcast journalism? And then I started that, like fell in love with it immediately.
That's awesome.
And at Penn State, like practicing being a reporter, like I fell in love with that too.
That's cool. Yeah.
Like I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but like now I know just because of that. Once I graduated, after like a year, I was like in a like kind of a dark place. I was in a relationship. I talked about that on my blog too. I think I just like lost what I was most passionate about, and
Right.
I think that's like really important because you should be like doing what you truly love to do. And so once I got out of that relationship, I kind of like found myself again, and I started writing because like I was just gonna like I think settle just for like a basic job that I didn't really want to do.
Right.
So I was like, okay, how do I like kickstart this back? So I started a blog in September, and I didn't really know truly what I was going to talk about. So I just wanted to talk about what I was most passionate about, and that's like helping people.
Yeah.
And that's what I kind of started it with KDunph Diaries because my name on Instagram is like KDunph, and I'm
Yeah.
sure you read that. Like my 7th grade teacher gave me that nickname.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like since I had a diary ever since I was little, I combined the two to like help people with my writing because that's what I love to do.
That's cool.
So yeah, I've been doing that ever since, and now I'm in graduate school
Nice.
at Full Sail. I love that. So that's a new media journalism.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I think you're definitely helping a lot of people though, because even when I was reading it, I was able to relate to so many different things that you were saying. Like, it's a pretty deep blog, I feel. And is that kind of the direction
Thanks,
you
yeah.
wanted it to be?
Yeah, and when I do write about like skincare and stuff, it's kind of just like fillers
Yeah.
to put in. But I did ask people like, what do you want me to see write about? So I just like fill that in sometimes. But I do like look for stories that probably like feature stories like Meg Doc and everything.
Yeah,
But like
yeah.
I do want to help people like with anxiety. That
Yeah.
was a big one. I talked to a psychologist, and like I try to find like experts in the area
Yeah.
too, because like Meg Doc, she obviously is an expert too.
Yeah.
Like,
And cakes.
just things like that, yeah.
Shout out McDoc. Yeah.
Yeah, so if I see a story that's like I think is gonna be a like entertaining story, I like go at it full speed.
For sure. I mean, it's the same thing with the podcast too, but
It's kind of, you're like doing this in a way just without the audio and
Yeah.
everything, you know?
it's a
like,
different
Yeah.
medium, and you're a very good writer. It's very digestible. That's something
Thank
I
you.
noticed when I was reading it, and it's like kind of like doing my quote unquote research, whatever, reading it, whatever. It's very easy to digest or very easy to read. But it's cool that you were able to come full circle. You're able to get yourself out of a certain situation, then come back and find yourself, like you said, and because that's what happens really with COVID. You know what I mean? That's been the biggest thing.
And
Yeah, that too.
I noticed you said too, like, about you have to go through like some of the worst things sometimes to get to the best.
Right. Yeah.
And that's kind of, sounds like that's your story a little bit.
I just hear so many stories that like even if it's not relationships, like if you went through something like really hard, I feel like you still learn from it. And I just feel like that's happens to a lot of people. I don't know. With relationships, like I've heard like 3 people say like I was in the worst relationship of my life, and then it brought me to the best person. Like
Right.
I truly believe that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's taking things out that are bad for you, and it like you said, not just relationships, but just maybe if it's habits or certain people, and that's what's naturally going to happen.
Yeah.
Mindsets, habits, ways
Yeah.
of thinking, all
Right.
that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you're talking about mastery, our life's path, and how we're going to get there. The course you had in school, I thought that was really interesting. Talking about like your passion and what you want to do with life and stuff like that.
Thanks.
And so it's cool that you're able to turn like a hobby, hopefully, into something bigger, and it's something that you love, and you're happy to do it, and you're excited to do it every time. Do you have any self-help tips that you stress in your blogs? I know you obviously have them all written here, but I definitely want to dive a little bit deep into that.
Like just like in general. What
Yeah,
I
so you
do?
talk about yoga, affirmations,
Yeah.
because we're very into that stuff too. So talk a little bit about that. How do you get your mind right, and how do you get yourself where you want to be?
Right. So if I feel like super stressed, I think like music is probably one of my biggest like stress relievers.
Right.
Post Malone,
Yeah.
love him.
Yeah.
He's my favorite.
Yeah, he's the best.
I think if I literally just like sit there for like 30, if it takes 30 minutes, it does. But like if I just listen to music, that's probably one of my top things. It just like relaxes me.
Yeah.
Another thing I started to do, I don't do it as much as I did, but I'm going to start doing that. Yoga
Yeah.
and even meditation. I want to try because I've heard if you do that for 30 minutes a day, like it's the best thing.
Even me, I do it for 10 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Sometimes all you have to do is 5 minutes a day. It's being present and being in the moment. Cause like I told you, before we got on with the anxiety and stuff, I had that forever. So I was able to relate to that a lot.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is just like, I feel like it's, more conscientious people get anxious because you're kind of aware of everything. I don't know if that's kind of like your temperament a little bit, but
Yeah.
I know that's how I am. Like, I'm always aware of the people around me.
Yeah.
And I've tried working on that, what they're thinking about, all that stuff.
You
Right.
overanalyze.
Right. Overthink, overanalyze. And your mind just races. Like,
Right.
you can't get a grip on it. It's just nonstop. And
Yeah.
that's one thing. Meditation, yoga. I know you said working out, which is
working
huge for
out.
me. After I leave the gym, I feel totally different. Like if I'm having a bad day and I go to the gym, like everything shifts. Like you
Right.
put yourself on a positive trajectory.
Right.
Right. So I know I said music, but actually probably working out is my number one. Like I always was active in high school with like track and cheerleading, but I think once I got to college and I wasn't like doing a sport, I think that's when I started to like find a love for working out. So I started kickboxing. I still do that. And then I like discovered the gym. Like I had no idea what I was doing at first, which is fine. Like I definitely like shout out to the people who do that and
Yeah.
are like scared to.
Like gym rats. Like,
yeah. Because
Right.
you think like everyone's looking at you, but like who cares?
Yeah. And people really aren't looking at you like
Yeah.
you think they are either.
Yeah.
They're focused on themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
so
They're like,
it's
yes. So I do that a couple times a week. I kind of like made a schedule for myself too. I think that's important.
Yeah.
That's another thing, like time management. Like I definitely didn't have that before, even in college.
Yeah.
But like I think I'm making up for that now in graduate school because everything is so much clearer for me once I have everything on schedule. Yeah, I'll like go to the gym, do kickboxing, and I feel so much better afterwards. It's crazy.
I know.
Like the endorphins after you get.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
It releases
insane.
so many endorphins, and
Yeah.
I say that all the time too.
Yeah.
Even
but-
if you make yourself, like sometimes you're like, oh, like no, like I'm just gonna like sit and I'm not gonna go. But if you make, like you feel so much better once you make yourself go.
The hardest
It's crazy.
part. The hardest part about
is going. It's the hardest part about anything is just showing up.
Yeah.
But even if you take a walk outside sometime, like anything, if you take a jog, like there's that, they say that jogger's high you get, like it's just,
Yeah.
it fires so many things in your brain. And I do it more, I know like obviously physical, but I do it more mental. The reason I work
mental.
out is usually for my mental, like,
Yeah. I
You know-
think that's what like helps me the most. Yeah.
Right, just
Yeah.
mentally. So you have a bucket list and you stress living your 20s to the fullest. Talk a little
Yes.
about your bucket list a little bit. I'm
Okay.
curious.
So I think like starting a bucket list is really important for people. Just have like set goals for yourself. Because
Right.
if you think you're like not doing anything, like just setting like a simple goal, like working out, like I'm gonna go work out every like 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Like that's like a little bucket list. But like my bucket list is like jumping out of an airplane.
Yeah,
Stuff
that's
like
a good
that.
one.
I mean,
Like traveling.
you
I
only
want to see the
live one
world. That's-
time.
Yeah.
do you make lists for yourself during the day, like things you want to do, or kind of just
so-
like long-term goals?
Not every day. Like sometimes I do like write down the goals of the day I want to do. Like make sure you do this, blah blah blah. But like also with goals, I don't want to make myself upset if I don't get something done because I think that's important too.
Yeah.
But like definitely have long-term goals. Like I want to move out of my parents' home. I want to get like this dream job, like things like that you could
Yeah.
work towards. I think that's important. But I definitely want to like travel.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's one of the biggest things. You stress it a lot when you're in your blogs and stuff, the travel.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice to have something to look forward to, something to work towards. Like with us, we have every 10 episodes, we're like, yo, our next goal is 20, our next goal is 30, and then let's do our first giveaway, let's do stuff like that.
Because I feel like when we did the first episode, we didn't think we'd be on episode 13.
We were,
like,
Right, yeah.
So me and Nick had a little trip down memory lane. We watched it. We went back and watched our first episode to kind of see how far we came. It was just me and him having wine, just like shooting the shit.
and it was so like, this all looks so different. And it's just crazy to see how, in a short amount of time, how far you can, like how much can change, you know?
Right, you learned a lot. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the biggest thing. So you're saying, oh, like in the beginning when I start going to the gym, I don't know what I'm doing, but like you're not supposed to.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
It's the little.
You start somewhere.
Everyone begins as like a fool at what they're doing. Like,
Yeah.
and I mean, interviewing people, you're doing a similar thing. Like you're networking. Like we were reading before you got here the blog with like the 60-year-old giving you like life advice and stuff. And I thought that was so cool. Like talking to an older person, because that's like really, like my parents are both in their 60s and I take so much from them, like because they've lived so much longer than us, you know what I mean? They've seen so many different things that we haven't seen yet. And like that was just, I thought that was one of the coolest ones you wrote about all the things she was telling you about life.
Yeah, it was a 60-year-old, 25-year-old, different ages. Like, so what inspired you to do that? Like how'd that process go?
So I was actually thinking too, and even myself, like I'll give advice and everything too, but I'm like, I'm 24 years old, like what would a 60-year-old say? So I kind of like thought about that, and because like my mom's the best at advice, like everyone goes to her even if she's not your mom, like she just gives off those mom vibes to everyone.
Yeah, she's
like
that person.
she just starts conversations with random people at the grocery store.
That's so cool though. Like,
she was like, someone
awesome.
wouldn't leave me alone. I'm like, no, you mom, you're giving mom vibes. Like that's why.
That's awesome.
But back to what I was saying. So yeah, my dad's 74, so he's old. Because my oldest sister's 40, gonna be 40.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you come from a big family, right?
Yeah, 7 of us.
Damn.
I love it so much. That was my last blog post about that.
Yeah.
But I think it was my sister. I kept everyone anonymous, but just because.
Yeah.
And when she said like always give someone like a second chance, but the third time like don't. Yeah. And I was like, wow, that's so true. Yeah. Like, it was just like stuff like that, and I think it did like teach people a lot of things, just like from what they said.
Yeah, one of those things. I think it was like this 60-year-old. She said, "Leave
the first time they lie.
Leave after the first lie."
Yeah, like it was like touching stuff. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of times you give people way too many chances, you know, and it's like they've slapped you in the face so many times, and you'll just keep allowing it, you know.
Yeah.
Exactly. So like everything they said, I was like, wow. So that's why I wanted to share that stuff. So like it helps someone else. Like that's the whole point of my blog.
It helped me because, you know, the more people that see that type of, it's like affirmation. They see like they're affirming themselves. Like, oh, I'm not wrong for feeling that way. You know what I mean?
And that generation too is like sacred.
They
like,
know what they're
without
talking
them,
about.
I don't know what we're gonna do, because people like our parents' age, like they just lived a whole different type of life than we've lived, I feel.
Yeah, my parents were saying too, like, because they're older and wiser, they were like, they're so confused with the social media thing, because social media has so many aspects. That's another thing I do want to talk about. Yeah. But like, I just think it has like such a big effect on everyone, even with like
there's pros and cons to it.
Yeah. Like I think it is such like a great thing if you're networking, like say in your podcast or like my blog. But like I think when it comes to like people's like self-worth and stuff, and they don't know the editing going on and behind everything, I think that's so important just to like don't
people are so into the image.
Right. Yeah. Like don't compare yourself to anyone, because I think that's a big thing. Like people take social media breaks.
Biggest thing for him.
Right.
Yeah, I always say comparison is the thief of joy. Like,
it is, like, and you don't understand like how unique you are, like, because God made you for a reason.
Right.
Exactly.
And I mean, everyone. The thing is, like, there's this guy Jordan Peterson I love.
Man,
you got to check him out. He's a psychologist. He's a clinical psychologist.
Nice.
Like from the University of Toronto, Harvard. He's a professor, like his own practice in psychology, and he wrote 2 books now. Well, 3, but I'm reading the second one that he wrote. And it's called like 12 Rules for Life. He kind of just gives you like guidelines to live by. And one of the rules, one of my favorite ones, is compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who somebody else is today. Because every story is so unique. Like your life is completely different than mine, and your life is like all of our lives we've lived so differently that what's the point of comparing yourself to that person? Because they have a completely different background, like everything.
Right. And if you think about it, like everyone's like, some people do post the bad, I guess, if you're like a celebrity, but like if like everyone posts the good about their life, and like if you see that and you're like, oh, they have the best life, like you have no idea what they go through.
Right.
Like they probably just had the worst day of their life if they did, and you just can't compare yourself to that, or else it will like kill
it's like
you.
a highlight reel, like
Right.
you don't, it's easy to pick up your phone and portray an image and then put your phone down and you're back to reality behind closed doors, and we have no idea what's going on with that person.
You see it every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like seeing people who maybe just got out of something or whatever, they just got out of a situation, they're trying to make themselves seem happier than they actually are, and as a result, it makes them look less happy than.
Yeah, I mean,
does that make sense? But
yeah, it's just, there's a lot of parts of it that's just not authentic. You know, it's like,
especially like even me, like I wouldn't say I did it in my past relationship. Like no one had any idea like what
you're going through.
I was going through, and I think that's why I wanted to make a blog post too, because people were confused, like because I did get in a relationship right away, but like I was like mentally checked out a while ago, so I think that's another thing too.
Every person's different,
right?
You know what I mean? Everybody. Some people are healing during their relationship, as weird as that sounds. Some people get out of situations mentally before it's even over. But
I mean, even like what you said with anxiety, no one knew you were going through that.
No, yeah, no one. Unless you were like my close friend or a family member, you had no idea.
Like even with him, me and him, we have a story we talked about on our first podcast. We were going to the bar, and I was like about to throw up because my anxiety was so bad, knowing I was about to go into a crowded bar, like with all these people. And if I'm around you, or if I was around both of you and I was full of anxiety, you guys won't even know it.
Right,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, that was bad. I mean, we were driving on 95, and he had to throw up.
I was like, dude.
Isn't it crazy how your like mind can do that?
I was like, dude, I'm gonna get sick.
Insane.
I was like, I'm gonna get sick. Like he was like, here's a bag, like, and cause you get those butterflies, like it's crazy. So, what do you do to combat? What have you done to combat that for yourself?
So I think like talking about it. Like my mom told me that. My mom went to therapy. I still want to go to therapy. That's something I do want to like normalize too, because I think that should be as normal as going to the doctors. Like
I agree.
Because like in movies and everything, they're like, if someone's like kind of like in an argument and they're like, you need therapy, like it's always seen as a bad thing, and I think it shouldn't be.
As like you're some kind of crazy
like I want to go to
person.
therapy. I think it's like awesome that like you get to like just like vent to someone and they help you like unscramble all your thoughts. Because I saw this one picture, and it was like a person like sad, and then it was like yarn like all messed up on top of their head, and that was like their thoughts. And then it was like after they gone to therapy, and it was all like undone, like it was just like a straight line of yarn. And I think that like explains it very well, because my mom always tells me when you say it out loud, you're gonna feel so much better. So even if you like write it down, or you just like talk to someone, I think that helps so much, because if you keep it all in your head, that just like is going in your head.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to have a place to put it. Do you write down your thoughts a lot and stuff? Because I seen you said like in your one blog, you were like, if you guys see my notes, it would be so funny. Do you put a lot of stuff in there?
Yeah. So like even if I'm on the phone with someone, like I'm just like scrambling thoughts.
That's
like I just
crazy.
get it all out of my head.
Yeah.
So
I think that helps a lot.
It helps getting it out. Yeah, for sure.
Because if I'm just like stressed about something too, like I think I just like think about it too much. Like I'm thinking about like next month when you should be like staying in the present. I think that's a big thing too. Like you're thinking about the past or the future. I think you should stay in the present. And my mom did say to me, like, one thing is that like sometimes you need to forgive yourself. So even if it's like something small, like she said, like just like finding forgiveness in yourself is such a like big help.
Yeah, you wrote a lot of tips down. You said, forgive people who've done you wrong, let the little things go, travel. Like, that is so important. It's to also take care of yourself and forgive yourself, because I know personally I beat myself up all the time. Like I wasn't living in the present for a long time. I feel like this podcast is like a therapy for me, because I'm able to come on and talk to new people every week to express my thoughts. But like, and I feel like I'm doing something, like for a while I was like, dude, I need to go to LA. I need to go like right now. Like I remember I would get in crazy anxiety at Temple, and I wanted to drop out my sophomore year and be like, dude, because I'm in business. I was in business, and I was like, dude, I hate it. Like, I'm watching people write graphs on a freaking whiteboard, and I don't give a shit about it. You know what I mean? So I'm more on the creative side, just like you are. You know what I mean? I'm more on the creative side. My mom's like, yo, why don't you just switch schools? Like, so I switched to media school. I mean, I'm not like, college is not my thing personally.
And it's not everyone's,
But I mean, it placed me, it kind of leveled me and humbled me a little bit. And then this podcast made me feel like I'm doing something here. So it's like, let me work on this and build this to the biggest that I can possibly make it, me and Nick, and go from there. You know what I mean?
I feel like a lot of time, like you were saying, when you write things down or you say it, you're like wrestling with thoughts. Like when I get on here and do this, a lot of these things I'm figuring out as I'm saying it.
Right,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like
For sure.
like you just said, it's self-therapy in a way. Like
Yep.
instead of seeing a therapist, I'm sorting through it right now.
You're talking out loud.
Yeah, like I'm talking through. I think the coolest thing about your blog and about this podcast is the fact that we're able to, we don't, like you were saying, it's not for sympathy. Like,
Yeah,
I don't want
no.
people to feel bad for me because I've had anxiety or depression or whatever, but it's just, I know how many people out there, especially right now with our cell phones and everything, feel those same emotions. And to be able to make that like tangible and for people to say, oh, Nick, Kevin, Kerry, they go through the same things.
Right.
Like, it helps people. And I've always wanted to help people. That was one of
Yeah.
the biggest things. Like,
Yeah, I think that's important, like being relatable, like
Yeah,
to other
for
people
sure.
too. Because I think if someone thinks, like personally, they're just like going through something and no one else in the world is, and if they read that or like hear that on your podcast, they're like, oh wow, I don't feel so alone. And I think that's what's so important too, because I don't want people to feel like that, because I definitely felt like that at one point. So I think that's like one of my biggest things that I think about while I'm
Yeah.
writing too, because I'm being like super vulnerable, but if it's going to help someone, then that's what matters to me. Like I don't.
because when you
care.
were suffering, you wanted you probably were, you needed help. You know,
Yeah.
everyone needs help. So it's like,
You became the person you wanted.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And,
Yeah.
so
and the Northeast is like, not shitting on the Northeast, but like
I know what you mean though.
the culture of Northeast has always been,
It's just
if
like-
if you do something different, you're weird or something.
yeah,
Exactly.
that's one thing I've always like. I was talking to you a little bit about it that I respected about you, because I know you both love music. You were saying you love the piano and stuff, and just you've always kind of tried different things. Like I remember the singing videos and stuff on Instagram. I
Yeah, I
thought
want
that.
to post another one too.
He was
but, like,
impressed.
Yeah.
He was impressed. He's like, yeah. she's
No,
kinda
I
good.
thought first of all, I thought you were really good,
Yeah.
but I
Thank
thought
you.
it was so cool that you were doing something different. Because like you said, like a lot of times around here, people just dump all like
Yeah.
like hate on that if you're
Yeah.
if you're trying something new or
Yeah.
But I feel like that there's so much power in that.
Yeah.
You know.
And I remember like when I started putting out my music for the first time, I do covers and stuff, and someone came out to me and was like, yo, Kev, I want to do a cover with you. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And then it came time to do it, and she was like, oh, no, I'm too scared to do it. And I was
Yeah,
like,
because you're scared what people are going to say, and I think that's such an important thing. Like, I definitely was. Before I was about to post it, you could ask my little sister Erin, like she's my best friend, but
yeah.
she was probably the one to be like, no, post it. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like, and sometimes you need that little push, like, because
Yeah.
like I probably wouldn't have posted it, honestly, because I'm scared of what people would think.
Yeah.
But like, you can't care. Like, you just have to go.
Go for
Go
it.
with it,
And
yeah.
the people, what's the saying? The people want mind. How does it go?
The people who mind don't matter, and the people who matter don't mind.
Yeah. He's the
I'm a
quote.
I
quote
love that.
dropper.
I
He's
love
the
that.
biggest
Quote
quote driver. I just feed
I
off
love
him.
quotes.
I get them all
do.
from the like you. I know you said you love self-help books. We can dive into that a little bit, but that's
Yeah.
where you kind of subconsciously, the more you read that type of stuff, and Instagram's really cool too now because there's so many pages out
so
there
many
that have
little
these
quotes.
little
I just-
affirmations and
I just followed a bunch of them.
yeah, and the
Yeah.
more you're seeing that and reading it, I feel like it's just been instilled into my mind that I can
Yeah.
just pull them out whenever.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I've been filtering out people like on social media in terms of like, let's say Snapchat. If there's somebody, I have like over 1,000 friends on Snapchat. Like
I know, I don't even
a stupid
know how
amount.
just from like high school.
Yeah, like a stupid
grade
amount.
school,
we're like friends with people that we don't even know on
Yeah.
there. How crazy
you
is
see a
that?
story and you're like, who
Yeah.
are you?
Who is
Like,
it? Yeah, like
yeah, and I go down and I'm like, I don't know you, so I just mute their stories. I'm just slowly going down, muting people's stories. I'm like, let me filter out my social media stuff
Right.
like that, and then I started following like positive quotes, like good vibes only, like those stuff, and
like
they give real
law
good
of
stuff.
attraction because I
Yeah.
believe in all that stuff. I believe if you put something out there, in one way or another, it's going to come back like
Absolutely.
to you.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
And,
Yeah.
and putting out good, you'll get good back. The coolest thing that I saw on your blog, it was so different. So you have like a whole Amazon like little setup
Right.
with like products and like books. So dive into the books that you read that help you with your anxiety.
Okay, so definitely like self-help books too, like you were saying.
Yeah.
But I think I got into it. I had to look it up real quick, but
Yeah, do your thing.
it's called Badass Ways to End Anxiety and Stop Panic Attacks. And basically he talks about like stories. Like he had the worst anxiety, so he like wouldn't be able to go to restaurants and everything like that. And he literally helped like a pilot who had anxiety. Like he would literally fly planes
While
and
flying.
yeah, and stop having anxiety. Like all of these stories, and they're like varied too. Like someone was afraid to drive. I can't think on the top of my head, but it was literally that helped me a lot.
I'm gonna read that.
Yeah, it's, I definitely recommend this
Yeah.
one if you have
Yeah.
anxiety.
Were there anything that like distinctively stood out to you when reading that book? That like tips?
I think just like him telling his story and that like he went to therapy and nothing helped him. But I think one day when he realized that like, I think he talks about different things, but I think like his like little self-help tips are in the book too.
Right.
I read it like a year ago. I can't like totally remember what he said, but just the stories he said, and the one that about the pilot like stood out to me the most, because you wouldn't be able to tell like a pilot had anxiety. That's so scary.
Yeah,
I don't
But,
want to
like,
know.
that's scary
Right?
for us.
Like he said, like
I don't want to know.
I know now I'm gonna go to plane and be like, oh, do you have anxiety?
I'm going on a plane on Wednesday, so I'm like, all right.
Oh, yeah, sorry, scary.
Yeah.
But I definitely recommend that one.
I know you said you want to be an author one day, right?
Yeah, I would love to write a book, and honestly, I don't truly know what it'd be on, but just to write one.
I mean, you
day.
could write about your experience. If you're into
Yeah.
self-help and stuff, you can kind of make one up if you want.
They're like, a little bit about your life
Yeah,
story.
I was thinking about that, like starting one soon, just to like work on it. But that's definitely like one of my big goals, I think.
I think that's
Yeah.
another thing for everyone to work on too is attention span now.
Right.
Because I know for me personally with the phones, my attention span has
Yeah, that's so important.
been
because it's
so messed
literally,
up from
like,
it.
5 seconds.
It is
right.
bad.
Like if I'm reading a book now or if I'm watching a show or or anything,
Yeah.
the first thing I want to do is grab my phone.
Yeah.
Like at 2 minutes into it, like my mom always says to me, like, you just started watching that. Why are you already on your phone? And
Right.
that's one thing I hate about technology is the fact that like it has taken so much of our attention, you know?
Yeah. I mean, starting this podcast was a ballsy move too, because that's like, you got an hour of people like are gonna listen to you for an hour. You know, you're a guest. Cause
Yeah,
people,
you gotta start it off.
people are like, gotta
interesting.
start off with a bang.
Right.
But yeah, so you talk about if you had. So this is a question that we read on one of your blogs, and I wanted to ask you on the
Okay.
podcast. If you found out it was your last day, week, month, how would you change your approach to life?
Okay, so I think I would forget like the little things. I think that was the biggest thing in one of my blogs that someone said like they're so stupid and you're not gonna like care about them in 5 years. Like I think that's so
So true.
important. So I definitely like tell my loved ones that I love them, spend the time with them, because I think like the people who are truly there for you in your life and not just like friends that like won't be with you probably in like 5 years. I think like the people who are the most there for you, I think I would probably do that. But like I'd probably jump out of an airplane if I could.
You love that.
She wants that.
You love that.
I think that's like a big goal. I'm like, who wants to
That's
jump out of an
sick.
airplane with me?
Well,
So if you do, just
it-
let me know.
It kind of like that's kind of just something that you're probably in your head like life's short. I want to do something. I want
Yeah,
you
like
kind of want to feel
adventurous.
that. Yeah, like
I'd
that.
probably travel too. I guess it depends on the circumstances, but like
Yeah.
I definitely probably travel somewhere.
Is there somewhere you like really want to go?
I always wanted to go to Italy and like Greece.
Italy,
That'd be really cool.
Santorini,
Yeah.
Yeah, and
sure.
Also Europe.
Europe. That'd be pretty
Yeah.
cool.
I mean, there's so much of the world out there that we haven't seen, you
Yeah.
know, like,
Yeah.
and that really got me thinking when I read that on your blog about if it was your last week, month, or year, how
Yeah.
you would
It's-
approach differently.
yeah.
I know you said it made you think for a while when you saw that.
It's crazy to like think about, like, because no one knows too. I was just reading this like sad story too. It was like on everyone's like Instagram story. I saw it a lot, and it was just like this young girl who I think she was like in her late 20s, and I think she had like stage 4 cancer, and she was just talking about the little things and how important they are, like just like saying I love you before you leave, like to your
Yeah.
loved ones. I think that's so important because like you have no idea what's gonna happen. I think like even if you're in a fight with someone, I think like finding forgiveness too, because like say if you were in a fight with someone and God forbid something happened and that was the last words you said to them, like I think that's just like
Yeah.
I always think about that.
Yeah.
I think about that a lot. I think about that stuff all the time, just like how finite life is and your loved ones, and one day the reality is you're not going to have them.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
that's kind of a big thing that's always on
Yeah.
my mind. And I know you're into gratitude too, right?
Yeah.
Because so I think working at the hospital has like helped me a lot with that because
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, so just like the stories I'll see and just the people's stories, you wouldn't even believe it. Like what some
The people you see too,
Yeah,
like
just-
what they're going through.
right, just stuff they're going through. It makes you it makes you thankful that you can walk out of there on your 2 legs
Yeah.
and be healthy enough to walk or go
Yeah.
to the gym or read a book. Like
Yeah.
there's so many people out there that can't do that stuff, and we're kind of blocked out to that.
Yeah.
You know?
I used to get so mad at my mom because she works at a hospital too, and she would tell me these stories that she sees with like, especially with COVID. Like I couldn't even, like she's someone I don't really talk to about COVID because like you have the people out there say it's a conspiracy, it's not real, whatever. But like she sees it and she tells me these stories and like she'll come in from work, getting ready to make dinner. She's like, Kev, like I had this patient today who is losing their life and she's 25. And I'm like, she tried to put things in perspective for me. And I'm like, Trish, can you not like ruin my day with that?
Yeah.
But it's hard for people outside of it
Right.
because you're not seeing it.
Right.
You know, like anything you don't see is going to be kind of hard to understand.
Yeah,
But,
right.
but the thing is, like, I think about it now and I'm like, dude, she's right. She's putting stuff into perspective. You know
Well,
what I
this
mean?
last year is just like working through COVID for me was just seeing certain things. It kind of matures you a lot. Like I
Yeah.
feel like I've matured like 10 years in a year.
Isn't that crazy?
I
though?
do
know?
too, honestly.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
It's
yeah.
It's because
Like a year.
Yeah, it started to separate the people, like because you're like, oh shit, no, I can literally do nothing, so I need to figure out what I want to do.
Right.
You know, there's obviously the first few months where people making TikToks and sitting and playing board games every night.
Like our friend Cook said, Kevin Cook said last night. During this, you've either gotten better or you've gotten worse.
Yeah.
that's
you know,
that's
like-
so true, man.
Like some people still are struggling, and I think like people do need to realize that like this was hard on everyone too. So I don't want anyone to like feel alone in this.
For sure.
Definitely, but
sure.
yeah, I feel like either like people did like grow or like they're still held back from a lot. But yeah.
Do you feel like you had to like take a look at yourself during this and kind of self-reflect and all that
Yeah,
stuff?
and honestly, I think that's when I realized a lot. Like I honestly, in like my personal life, I feel like if this didn't happen, I don't know if I'd be like where I
Yeah.
am today. Like just with everything that changed, I feel like
Right.
a lot has changed in the past year.
I feel very lucky that, I mean, obviously not lucky because we lost a lot of people, but like just the ability to reflect. Like I remember, like I was saying last episode, like when I was DJing Patties all the time, like I started getting really like just too much. It became too much. I was just like drinking every weekend, and, like
Right.
so like I was forced to like reflect and just sit back and just like think about what I really want to do with my life, and it slowed my head down mentally because like I said, I wanted to get out and go to LA and do my thing and do all that stuff, but I don't know. I feel like the COVID was a really good sign of reflection.
Yeah, because I think like a big thing too is that like you don't realize that like we were at concerts and like even the movie theaters and
Right.
stuff, and we didn't realize that was going to be our last time. I think that was like a huge thing for everyone. I was like,
that's big.
if I
That's big.
knew that it was going to be my last Post Malone concert, I would have gone crazy, as if I didn't
Yeah.
already. But like, I feel like just like thinking about that, like when you can do that again, I feel like everyone's going to be like, I'm going to have the best time of my life because like I didn't do it before.
People are
Corona,
gonna go
and now.
hard, man.
Right. I seen a quote one time, like
Oh, master.
Let's hear it.
about like you know when you're a little kid, you'd go out and play like freedom, like crazy freedom and all that type of stuff. It said think about this. One day you went out with your childhood friends for the last time, and you didn't know that it was the last time.
I saw that too.
Yeah, you seen
That's
it?
so
All right.
sad.
Yeah, it is
Like,
so
think
sad.
about that though.
It
You
is.
went out one time with all your friends, and that was it, and you didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need a minute. No, I'm
I
fine.
know.
No, but seriously, like
It's
that's
like when's the last time?
yeah. I mean, I had my last $5 movie Tuesday. Like every single Tuesday, I go to the AMC theaters
You went by yourself.
by myself.
Your thing.
I was a gold member and all. So like every single Tuesday, I would go by myself, $5, watch any movie I want. I would sometimes be there for 3 movies. Like it was nuts. And people are like, "Why are you doing that?" And, like people are like, "My dad's like, you're not going with anyone." I'm like, "No." Like it's so important to do things by yourself.
Yeah.
You
I
can't
think
talk
that's
to
true,
anybody
yeah.
during a movie anyway.
Yeah,
so.
right?
Yeah, that's
mean,
true.
He's like the only one I would go with. Like,
Yeah.
you know?
I wanted to ask you though about drinking a little bit. Do you feel, because I know you said with the drinking every weekend and stuff, does that affect your anxiety at all when you're drinking? Like,
Yeah, I think it did. I've gotten so much better with my anxiety, but like I think before, like it would, because it's like a depressant.
yeah, and then when you come down from it, it's
right,
like,
yeah. So like I think if I was out, like I want to be able to stay there. Like I remember one time when I was at Penn State, that was the worst when I had it. Because I had it in high school really bad too. Like you said, you had in high school. It was my freshman year. I talked about that a little too on the anxiety blog.
Yeah.
But like, I was bullied by like one of my best friends in grade school, and I think that's another thing too that's like not normalized. Like I think bullying, everyone's like they're joking, like I'm joking, but like really they're bullying.
Yeah.
But I think like that was the worst I have ever had it. Like even since college, but. When I got in college again, I'm like, what happened? Like, why did like something triggers you? And that's what I've learned. But I honestly thought like, I was like, maybe it's because I'm at school and everything. But now that I'm past that, I realize that like the reason and at school, yeah, like if I was at a bar and like I would be drinking with my friends, like sometimes I would have to leave because it was like too much for me.
Really?
Yeah, I think I would just like think about it a lot.
right.
But like now I'm fine. I don't even honestly drink as much as I did in college. It's crazy how
It's,
Yeah,
that
it's
happens.
crazy.
It's crazy in college how much.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, so
Yeah.
you said you had your anxiety was bad freshman year of high school and senior year of college, right? Is that
Yeah,
what you
so
said?
like my whole freshman year, it was like until that summer, I like literally only hung out with my family. Like I didn't want to make new friends because I think that like held me back because I had like a sense of guilt. Like I said, like you have to forgive yourself. But I think with me, I was like, does everyone think this? Like, doesn't everyone like, is this going to happen to me again if I
Right.
make new friends? So that held me back from like a lot. And then I got like my new set of friends and I just like realized I was like, why did I care so much?
Right.
But like you learn from like your mistakes and everything that happened, like you've gone through. And since then I was fine. Like I would have like little anxiety spurts here and there, like if something happened, but like it was fine. And then my senior year of college, so that was like a while until it happened again. And I still have it like today, but it's nearly not as bad as
Right.
Yeah.
I had it.
There's
before.
there's probably something unresolved with you that you didn't
Right.
like take into account that forced it to come back, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of going through stuff is that you're able to look back and say, oh my God, like 4 years ago, I can't believe I even felt that way.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I wanted to ask you too about like what is your process for like when you're doing the blog, when you're interviewing the person and stuff, what makes you choose who to look for?
Yeah. What's your creative
like,
process in that?
So I think like with a story, I try to look for like an expert, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
through the story, like say we keep saying McDoc, but like she's awesome.
She's the best. Shout out McDuck.
She's
yeah.
killing
Shout
it
out,
right
Mike
now.
Doug. You're
Absolutely
amazing.
I should have
killing
wore,
it.
I
We
should have
need
wore a
some
shirt today.
cupcakes.
Those cinnamon buns
Yeah,
were
right?
fire.
Yeah.
Her birthday cake, it was amazing for me.
Yeah.
Starbucks, it was awesome.
Bang.
Anybody who hasn't tried McDoc yet, get on it.
I'll link
But
her in
like
the
she
description.
went to school for like baking, and she's just so good. So I think that's like finding someone. I think like for me, like finding a story, I'm like, wow, I want to do a story on that. Like it just like comes to me.
Yeah.
So with the anxiety too, I talked to a clinical psychologist. But like if it's just stories of me, I'm just like kind of rambling on like this is my skincare routine, like stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
But like when I'm talking about like a feature story or just like a story that's gonna help other people, I try to find like people that know what they're talking about. Like even the one with like wiser and older people like giving advice for people in their 20s, like they've been through that. So like I
Right.
think that's a big thing for me. And like my creative side of it, it just comes like sometimes I have writer's block and that kind of happens a lot, but like I just have to like go work out or go do something and then it just comes to me and then I'm just like on my laptop like typing real fast.
Really?
Like yeah, it's crazy.
So
how
that's
it
your,
just
so,
happens.
so that's your tip for writer's block, basically.
Yeah.
So you just get yourself to the gym,
Yeah,
get
just, like,
yourself going.
Go do something that like go like make something. Like I don't know.
That's
I
true.
mean, a lot of
Yeah.
times in life we think you need to be like motivated to perform an action, but one thing I learned too is sometimes doing it, or most times for me, like doing it is what gives me that positive energy.
increase
Like just sitting down on your laptop and writing that first word
Yep.
can create something.
Yeah,
Like
it starts off so like sometimes things are still in my drafts and then like I go back and forth because like sometimes I'll like delete it all. Like it just depends on the
Really?
certain thing. Like
Yeah.
with certain stories like I'll probably just sit there and I don't even know what time it is. I'm just like typing away. Like it's crazy. You ever see the movie Soul? That Disney movie?
I haven't
Absolutely
seen
fire.
it, but
So
I
It's
heard how good it
amazing.
is.
If you haven't seen that movie, like go
Yeah.
watch.
It's on Disney
crazy.
Plus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna look into that.
Even that, I think that was like such a smart movie that they did that because
Oh, yeah.
it like taught you that like everyone's different and they have like this like calling in life and like
Yeah.
once you're like doing that, so like when I'm writing, I think I'm in that like bubble. You know, it was like playing
Yeah.
when he was playing the piano.
Yeah.
Like I just feel like that, and I think that's such a like a cute movie to teach kids that too. Because some kids like if you don't like sports, that's fine. Like I feel like when you're young, when you're being like forced to do something too.
Yeah.
I feel like you should like let everyone express like what they want to do. Like my nephew Noah, he's so cute, but like he loves like scary things. I don't know why.
Really?
Like yeah, like
That's cool though. Like that's cool. It's different.
Yeah,
you don't
it's
hear
so
that a lot.
cute. And I
Yeah.
love that my sister Brianna like lets him express that. Like just like costumes and everything. He loves
Right.
Halloween. Just like
So
stuff
do
like
I.
that. Like little things. Like
Halloween's my favorite holiday.
and I feel like you shouldn't care what other people think. Like if you truly love someone, I think you truly love someone. Truly love something, I think you should go for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, there's no script for life, right? Like,
no.
Right.
like the biggest thing is just be you, and that was something for years I was like not afraid to do, but I would just I'm the type of person like if I'm in a certain environment, I kind of become that environment in a way. So sometimes I'll have to isolate myself just to like recalibrate what I'm doing, because certain times I'll catch myself asking myself like, why am I even doing this right now? Or why am I here right now?
Yeah.
Right.
Is
Like
it just
holding you back?
right? Is it just because it's the trend for the weekend and everybody's doing that? Or is it because I truthfully want to be doing that? Like a lot of times I've been introverted. So right now during this last couple months, I've been trying to kind of work on getting out there and like, if it's meeting new people or doing something different that I normally would have never did, or talking to somebody that I never would have talked to, like, because I think it's big to work on parts of you that don't come naturally to you.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean?
That's
Like,
something that actually did help me. Forgot to mention that, but in high school, like I would stay in all the time, like I said, but like once I started going out and like forcing myself to, I think that's the biggest thing, like we talked about earlier, like forcing yourself to do something. Obviously that's like not bad, but like I would just like make myself go out, and like I just started to feel comfortable, and anxiety just like slowly went away without thinking about it.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too, like if you think about anxiety, like I'm like, oh, I'm not having anxiety right now, I start to have anxiety, like
As you think about
it's
it.
crazy.
it's insane, isn't it, how powerful your mind is? Like your
Yeah.
mind really controls like for me, like if I'm like, sometimes I'll worry about stupid stuff like health or something, and I'm like, I'll feel something and I'll be like, wait, was that normal that I just felt that? And then
Yeah.
your mind gets set on that.
Yeah, and don't
can't-
go on WebMD because
I was
it'll
gonna
say
say.
you're gonna die
Right.
tomorrow.
Like, and then your mind can't stop thinking about it, and then it'll just start making you feel it even
Right.
more. Like say you feel your chest felt tight or something, like
Yeah.
then you're like, oh my, why
Hey,
is
like
my
you're
chest?
feeding the anxiety
Yeah.
basically if you
Yeah.
think about it like that way.
Exactly.
It's crazy how powerful the brain is. That's why it's so important to control your brain, like, and through those things like yoga,
And
meditation.
control your breathing too. That's a big thing too for me.
Huge.
Like literally
Huge.
like deep breathing.
Yeah,
like, deep
6
breathe out.
seconds,
Like, that
6
helps.
seconds in, 6 seconds
Yeah.
out.
That helps too, because
Yeah.
like you don't even realize that your heart's racing, like when it is.
Right.
Yeah.
For
And once
sure.
you start to slow it down, your mind's like, okay. You're fine.
Yeah,
Like,
it's just all about telling yourself.
I mean,
Yeah.
think the biggest, what has been always with us is our breath, right? When you're anxious, what changes? Your breathing.
breathing. Yeah.
Like when you're anything, your breathing
Yeah.
dictates pretty much everything you do.
Yeah.
You know, so even if you sit there for 1 minute and just deep breathe for
Yeah.
a minute.
Yeah, there's another thing too. Actually, I just thought of this, but it was a psychologist, and he was like in an interview with Oprah Winfrey. It was like an old interview.
Okay.
I can't remember his name, but one thing he said, he was like, "Think about your hand." It was crazy, but I was like, "What?" And I tried it, and it's crazy. Like you're focusing on one thing because that's what your mind's focusing on. That was like one tip that actually helps me. Like sometimes if I'm having anxiety, I'm like,
It helps your
my
anxiety.
mom's probably like, "Why are you
okay.
staring at your hand?" But like,
That's intense. Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy because
just like things like that.
yeah, I mean, whatever you bring your attention to is what is going to kind of take over. You
Yeah.
know, like
And
if
sometimes you can't help it, and I think that's
Yeah.
okay too.
Yeah.
Like you just like
Yeah, it only grows if you water it. You know what I mean? Like we're big creatures of habit, so it's like
Right.
you go back to you're forcing yourself to go out. Like you put yourself in uncomfortable positions. We talk about it all the time, and you know eventually it's going to get easier and easier and easier.
I remember you used to always tell me when you had the house down at Temple, because you're a lot more like you've always been more outgoing than me. Like you're a
Yeah.
lot more of a person who's just able to go into a crowd and like talk
right,
to everybody.
conversational.
Right. And
Yeah.
I remember you used to always tell me like, Nick, you got to start like kind of getting more like that, because remember I would just go out and not talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Kind of just be in the corner. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know like about you, but like when it was really bad, I at first would like if someone comes off as like judgmental, like even if they're not, if I'm just like getting that vibe, I'm like a really vibe person.
Yeah, for sure.
But if someone's like super judgmental, I hold back, and I realize I do that. Because like sometimes I'm just like my goofy self, like with you guys, good
Yeah,
vibes,
yeah,
good vibes.
exactly. Yeah, appreciate that.
But like that does still happen to me. It still affects me that way.
Yeah.
But like I think if you just realize that like if someone doesn't like you, that's fine. Like you can't just like be a people pleaser, you know, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
That'll-
Like
well, that was one
not
thing.
everyone has to, you know.
Exactly. That was one
Doesn't
thing I
matter.
always cared so much about. I wanted everyone to
Right.
like me. Like, does that person like me? Like, and even like we can go down to the small stuff. Like if I texted somebody and they didn't respond to me for the whole day, I'd be like, why didn't they text me back? Like,
Right.
and just get so stuck on that. Like,
Yeah.
do they not like me? Do they think this way? But like,
Yeah,
you know what I
And
mean?
again with your thoughts, it's crazy.
Yeah, like,
it can't be that.
It's
way.
not about them. It's about you. You know,
Right.
you can't let
I was just gonna say that too.
right.
Like,
You
yeah.
can't let somebody else what their action dictate your entire day. You know.
Yeah.
yeah, that's the biggest thing for sure. Because I go through that too. Like I've had people will come up and say stuff to me like that I don't like, and that's like a natural thing though. When you feel someone's judgmental and you feel like their energy's off, like I feel like naturally people were like, I just want to stay away from that because you
Right.
don't want to try to appease them. It takes more
Yeah.
energy to appease them
Exactly.
than to just step away from them.
like you said, you're getting better at it. I think I'm
you
getting.
have to like realize that like who cares like if they don't like me.
And you've been coming
'cause
out.
That's been such a big thing for me.
And you've been coming out with me a lot.
That's why I have been. That's what I was saying.
Like,
been-
make yourself too.
Yeah, like I'm trying to like.
baby steps.
If you've noticed, when we're out now, like I'll talk to people that I've never talked to before.
You're,
you know?
as your brother, you're killing it, right, dude? Because you're just not afraid to just go out and just talk to people. You're making new friends, and I think the biggest thing that helped us too is the podcast for sure. Like,
that's awesome.
You know,
you did it.
We
I think
have,
that's the biggest step.
We have
like,
people like come up to us all the time, and they're just like, no matter what happens, please keep doing it. Just
even if someone says one bad thing to you, you can't like let that ruin it too. Like
for sure.
And then there was people who I never in a million years would think would have watched it that'll come up to me like, yo, I've been watching it.
Yeah, and that's like so nice to hear too.
It's nice.
Like encouragement.
Because it's encouraging the conversation. I say that all the time. It's encouraging the conversation because, like, if you can, like, for example, for me, like, probably a few weeks ago, it made me really think about it. I saw, because I had this guy, James Reedy, come on. He's a Are
we filming right now or no?
Yeah, we're filming. But I'll transition.
No, keep going.
So we're how low key was that? I just hit the buttons.
Because you didn't say anything. But
we're filming. Don't worry.
Keep going.
But so I remember
James Reedy.
I got the patio wax a little early for DJing, and I had this dude come next to me. He's like, yeah, you just had Reedy on the podcast, right? I was like, yeah, just put it out, whatever. He's like, it's dope, man. And then he was talking to me about his dad and his alcohol problem, and it's just crazy how you start, and the same thing for your blog, I'm sure, like you start putting stuff out, and then people will start receiving it, and they start respecting you for it, and they start approaching you about it, and it's just like it's subtle, you know, you're like subtly encouraging the conversation, you know what I mean? Like you're posting about, like I noticed you have so many facts about anxiety that you have, like you literally had, dude, if you go and read it, it's insane, like, but
so I mean, you did a lot of hard work and research for that too.
Yeah, because I think it's so important, because when I did put it on my Instagram, and I said like, for the reason too, it's just women too, because I started a blog for school too. It's called Anxiety Squad. It's for like women in the Northeast, because it has to be like super specific. Like that's what our like topic was. It was like, he was like, you have to pick like super specific things. So I did young adult women in the Philadelphia area who are like 18 to 25 or something like that. So that's what I said on my Instagram story. Like, and I was so surprised at how many like women like answered, and I was like, I would have no idea that you had anxiety, because I think it does have to be normalized, and a lot of it was like, how do I, like you said, like about like feeling sick, like someone said that, like what is anxiety, like why do I feel like this, like why do I get anxiety when I drive, someone said about coffee, like all of these questions, and I was like, wow, like I had no idea. I kept everyone anonymous, like I said, but like that too, I was like, because even if you're like in a conversation with someone and you talk about it, people are like, oh, like then they feel like better about talking about it because you have it, so they can relate to you, and I think that's like a big thing.
I mean, anytime like say driving gives somebody anxiety, and that, because that's a thing, 100%. Some people can't even drive because they're so anxious.
I used to not, like when I had it super bad in college, and after I graduated, I would have the worst anxiety when I was driving, especially in traffic. Yeah. But like now I can drive, and it's sometimes I still feel anxious like driving, but like I used to like be afraid to drive. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
That's a thing. Like coffee definitely gives people anxiety. Like, and if you're able to say it and then somebody else says it, then it just makes you feel better, because you know someone else is doing it. But kind of to piggyback off you were just saying a little bit with Jim Reedy. One of my favorite episodes we did was with his sister Haley. Like that was one of the coolest ones. Yeah. And we were just watching that too. But she was actually just telling me the other day that because me and her have become really close over this too. And she was telling me, like, she was out at the bar. Some kid walked up to her. I'm not going to say the kid's name, but he was like, Haley, like, let me buy you a drink. I just want to let you know, like, how brave that was for you to go on there and say all those things, like, you know what I mean? Like, she was like, I felt like crying when he said that to me, because at the end of the day, like, there's a lot of negativity out there, and there's always going to be, but I truly do think most people are good, you know, and I try to look at the positive.
Even if, like, you think someone's, like, evil, deep down, like, I do think people can change, especially, but, like, shout out to, like, that person who said that to her, because I feel like even those people, like, making you feel good, like making someone feel good, I think that's so important. Like, just like, if you think someone's like pretty, go tell them. Like, if you like appreciate someone, go tell them.
Right. No, that's what you were saying on the blog. Like, if you want to whatever it is, like if you want to ask somebody out, just go do it. Like if you want to, whatever, like,
like you don't want regret.
The worst thing they can say is no.
Yeah, like
you know?
My dad always says that.
It's true.
The worst thing the worst thing that can happen is they reject you, but you're going to be able to like you won't have that regret of not knowing in your head. Like, what if, you know, it's that what if question drives me crazy. Like if I want to do something and I'm not doing it, I'm like, man, what if I just would have done that? You know, like who knows where I'd be now?
And then you go back telling your friends, oh, I should have been this, I should have been that. When it's like, you know, it's only gets you so far. But yeah, I remember we were watching it last night because, like I said, we were reflecting, we went back and we're to see our progress, right? So
that's important.
We were watching the one with my sister, and like we were just sitting, and I was dialed in, and I got emotional, bro, because I just
that stuff is.
Dude, could you?
Well, it was a very emotional conversation because that's another thing about it is we had no idea. Like I don't know if you knew, but I had no idea of this thing she was struggling with. You know, like. Everybody's got battles on their hands, like.
And I think that's the thing about kindness. Like I always say, like, treat people with kindness because you have no idea what anyone's going through.
Right.
Like I said, like if like I wouldn't know, like someone wouldn't know I had anxiety, and like if I was having like a super bad day and someone said something like mean to me, it would like probably ruin my day. So like I think that's so important. And even if like I said in one of my blogs, like one time I was at like Starbucks. I'm always at Starbucks.
She's one of those.
I'm a Starbucks girl.
Coffee.
But I was at Starbucks one time, and I saw this girl like wearing a super cute dress, and I was like, oh my god, the dress is so cute. I'm like, why don't I tell her so it makes her feel good? And I know she was like with her boyfriend or something, and that's like the best feeling when someone does that. Like it is. Yeah. Because someone said that to me this summer, and I'm with my boyfriend. I'm like, what? So I was like I don't want to sound like weird, but your dress is like really pretty. And she was like, oh my. Like you could just tell it made her day. So like I think like little things like that, like
it doesn't hurt to be kind.
And like sometimes for some reason we don't want to say those things to people, like
because you want to come off as like weird, but like you have no idea like how
you don't know how they'll take it sometimes. But I think the biggest thing is just do it. You know, like
yeah, for sure.
If it's coming from a pure intention, just do it.
That's the biggest thing. What are your intentions to get out of it? Like. You know what I mean? If you want to have a conversation with somebody, you want to go talk to somebody, you want to learn about them, whatever. Like, as long as your intentions are pure. But I wanted to dive in a little bit about your the life calling and how important that is to you, because I know you stressed that, and that's definitely one of the legs you built your blog off of, which I think is really cool, because I think about it all the time. Like, I'm like, dude, what do I really want to do with my life? Like, why? Like, what is my purpose? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And I definitely wanted to dive in a little bit about that. With the blog, where do you do you think that it's something you're gonna want to stick with for forever, and like something you want to build off of?
Like at first, it was kind of like a tool to like another step to get where I want to be, but like I like kind of fell in love with it. Like it's like my little baby.
That's cool.
Yeah, so like I'll go on all the time, like just like play with like things. Like I'm learning new things too about like SEO and like all of like the certain things with blogs, but like I do like hope to grow it like more and more with like stories. So it's something I do want to keep like doing. Yeah.
That's
at first,
cool.
because I didn't know, I just was like, oh, we're just gonna like make a blog. But it
for sure.
out.
I noticed it's very well put together too.
Thanks.
Like with the pictures on there and everything. And you've seen Jimmy Fallon, right?
Yeah.
You went to the
show.
God,
that was awesome. And it's crazy how like
pick.
the stage was so like I would have thought it was huge, and it was so small. It's crazy. I was just like, and I'm so close to Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah,
it was really.
That's
cool.
pretty cool though.
Yeah, it was so.
So
cool.
I had that experience too when I was in LA, and like obviously Logan Paul, Dobrik. I was like, yo, I want some.
Wait, you saw David Dobrik?
I didn't see him. No, I drove. I didn't drive. So
I love David.
Not on any weird shit, but I was just like, dude, I want to see their fucking houses. Like, I kind of want.
The vlogs are amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
so I drove past. I didn't go in. I didn't go in the development like a creep, and like I drove past the street that his house was on. I saw the blue Bronco and shit, and I thought it was like the coolest thing. I thought it was cool.
Crazy.
And then I drove past.
Like you're that close to it.
Yeah.
Right.
Then I drove.
It's like crazy when you're in front of something like that, because it kind of like comes to eye level with you, and you're like, like that's I got a book. I just read a book.
Quotes.
I just read a book called Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. Everyone, you would love that book probably.
Yeah, probably.
It's so good. It's short. It's an easy read.
I actually didn't know he was like an author. Like wrote a book.
That was the first book he ever wrote. It's like he kept journals throughout his like last 30 years or so. Like
oh, that's so cool.
From the time
he from
the time he was in his like early 20s. It's honestly one of the best books I've ever read. He's a great actor too, but That's besides the point. So he kept
Everyone knows that one,
yeah,
but
He is
anyway.
the best.
he
He's the
kept
best.
journals and all these writings, like, and he puts them all in there, which is so cool because you're able to see at different points in his life what he was writing. And one of the things he said was like after his dad died, to become less impressed and more involved, like less impressed with his accomplishments, I guess, and just more involved with life. And he said everything at that point that he was looking at, like above him, that he was putting on a pedestal, I guess, kind of just came down to eye level. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
Like, and when you do that, or you see like a celebrity or something, it's like they're right in front of you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
It's
it kind of
crazy.
It's cool. It's cool.
It puts you in your head like that's a human just like I am.
For
like
sure.
why can't
Yeah,
I?
that is true. Like they were us too, and
Right.
like got to a point where
Yeah.
like
Like why can't I attain that?
Right.
You know, that's kind of how you start thinking.
We talked about that with Dawkins last episode. We had the UFC fighter on, and he was like, that's how his mentality is, because that's how you get to where you want to be. That's how you find greatness, is when you're like, why not me? You know, you take everyone eye level, and it's huge. And by the way, it's a book idea that he just gave you. My journaling 30 years from now.
That might be you one day.
That's so smart because like you can go back and see everything you wrote about too, and be like, why was I sad about that? Or like just like things you thought. Like it's crazy. Like how much you've grown to.
Yeah,
For
he
sure.
legit
Yeah.
puts like pictures of his. He'll have like a little index card or something that he would write something out. Like
Oh, that's awesome.
it's such a cool book.
That's
okay,
cool.
I'm like probably gonna go to Barnes and Noble tomorrow.
Yeah, right. Nah, because
I mean, you can borrow it if you want. Like,
Okay.
I'll let you borrow it.
I'm a big audiobook person now. Like I like driving and like then listening to the audiobooks,
Yeah.
but to each his own. But yeah, no. So I also wanted to talk about a little bit about like 5 things to make your day better, and what kind of like how did you get to that point to where you're able to come up with that list? And because you talk about making your bed, positive affirmations, listening to a podcast or music, being kind to yourself, and paying it forward. I kind of wanted to talk about that and dive into how you got to that point of finding that out.
So there's actually like a book called Make Your Bed. I forget who's the author, but just that simple step. It is so
I just
crazy.
got that book, but I
Did
wasn't going to
you?
interrupt you. Go ahead. Yeah.
You can interrupt. It's okay.
Jesus.
But like just like making your bed, you feel like together. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like now I make myself make my bed, and if you don't, like it's fine. Like you're like, oh, I didn't make my bed. Like you can't think
I
about
don't.
that all day, and that's fine. I
Yeah,
never made my
yeah.
bed,
Right.
But if you start making your bed, you will feel so much better. I don't know why. It's just like that simple.
Well, it was a Navy SEAL, right? And did you see his speech? Because he gave like it was like a
Yeah.
commencement speech where he says it at, and he's like, if you make your bed, you just accomplish your first task of the day.
Yeah,
And it just
like little
and it just
things,
puts
build
you on that like
That's so
the guy
true.
Jordan Peterson. One of the things he always says is clean your room. Clean your room. Like take the smallest part of your life that you think's like trivial or whatever, and just fix it.
Right.
Fix it up.
Right.
Because if you're in an organized room, like as crazy as it sounds, you just feel better and like you're more put together.
That's
That's
true.
so
You know what I
true.
mean? Like-
yeah, that
Yeah.
happened to me the other day. Like my room was a mess because like I went out and like I'm just like crazy with outfits. I'm like,
You get
oh,
ready,
I'm
you
just
throw
like
your clothes
literally
everywhere.
like throwing my clothes.
Right,
and
right,
like
right.
I hate to admit that, but it happens all the time.
Yeah.
So anyway, the other day I just walked in my room and I was like, oh no. But like once I cleaned my room and like I just like started cleaning everything, that does help with anxiety too.
For
like
sure.
I
Yeah.
felt so much better. And like, yeah, making your bed, like starting your day off like with like little steps, like a routine, that really helps. And then down the list, what was the second thing I
It was so you talked. So you had make your
Positive
bed,
affirmations.
positive affirmations.
Yeah, so like being grateful for what you have. So like I will make like a list of like 10 things. And I'm like my family, my house, my car. Because you don't realize like what you have and like someone else is envying about you, and like you have to be more like grateful for it. Because I think it does make you feel so much better about the things you do have.
For sure.
Especially family too. Like I love my family so much, and I know some people don't have that. So like I do have to be more grateful for that. Like I already am, but like I don't realize like what I have sometimes, and I think that's important for people to like put that into perspective.
Right. Yeah. And
And
you
listen to a podcast or music.
Yeah, so that definitely helps. So like if I'm driving, like I'll listen to a podcast and I just like feel so much better.
Yeah.
And also, because I was saying like if you're like in the worst mood ever, I think like just doing these steps like will make you feel better like throughout your day. And like music helps me so much. Like I definitely
mean,
think music helps.
We had this great girl Bryn on. She has a great story. That was our second episode, I think, or third.
Third episode.
So she put up like a quote on Instagram the other day. I replied to it. It was like, if you're having a bad day, just do one small thing toward like bettering it. Like if you got to take a shower, or if you got to clean up your room, or I don't know, like take a nap, just little stuff.
Because if you focus on like what, like I feel like if you're having a bad day and you're like having a bad day, like that's your day. Like I feel like you shouldn't do that.
Then that's going to be your reality.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Like I said, I'm not a big book reader. I'm gonna have to get on that. But
yeah, we're like, so we saw a quote the other day.
You gotta force yourself to, because I mean, if we're being honest, no one really wants to sit down and read. But
I mean,
you start to enjoy it after you do it, though.
Yeah. So the one book I did check out is called The Compound Effect, and it's like it teaches you that you do one little thing and it leads to another, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then by the time you look back on it, you already did 10 things, or you already put out 12 episodes. So, you just keep like building off that. And
then be kind to yourself. Which I think is one of the hardest things to do, because
it is, because you don't realize how you talk to yourself. You're like, oh, you're so stupid. Like, why'd you do that?
Yeah.
Like, would you talk to someone else like that? Like, I think that's what you do have to realize. Like, I think once you catch yourself talking to yourself like that too, it helps a lot. Because like sometimes like you don't even realize how mean you are to yourself.
Right. And a lot of times we treat people better than we treat ourselves. Like that's the case all the time. Where
I think you should, like, it sounds like, I don't know, but like I think you should put yourself, like, it sounds like selfish sometimes, but like,
it's not selfish at all.
I think you should put yourself first before anyone.
And one of the biggest things I liked on your blog too is like, I don't know if it was the older woman who said it to you, but you have to say no and be unapologetic about it.
Yeah,
like,
that's a big thing I still struggle with.
I struggle all the time with that. Like if even if him, or I tell him all the time, like even if he'll ask me to go out or something and I don't want to,
and you truly don't want to,
and I truly am not feeling it that day, or I just need a day to rest, or like whatever, calm down if I'm feeling whatever, I'll say yes, just because like I don't want to let my friend down. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like
I can't even do it when I get requests when I'm DJing. Like they ask for a song, because I'm always like I got you. Like I'm always like the people person. There's sometimes I'm like, that song just ain't it, and I'm not playing it. And I'm like, I'm trying to work. I'll work it in. I'll see what happens, and then they come back to me and they're like, yeah, what the heck? I'm like, dude, it's just like it just didn't work.
What do you think the key is to that? Like, have you figured it out yet, or are you kind of still trying?
I think like I said, like putting yourself first, because if you don't truly want to do something, you're gonna be miserable if you say like, if you say yes all the time, like if you don't say
yes,
no.
Man.
And I think you do have to realize like, saying no isn't a bad thing. Like, I've started to do that now, but it's something I still definitely struggle with.
I feel like your real friends go ahead. I feel like your real friends wouldn't mind if you say no.
Right.
You know, they shouldn't. They shouldn't. They should support that. Like,
for sure.
Do your thing, man, you know?
Yeah, and the way I look at it too is like, if you say yes to everything, like you're gonna stretch yourself so thin to where you can't be the best Kerry Dunphy, you can't be the best Nick Hughes, or I can't be the best Kev, and it's like you can't be the best version of yourself to give to other people. So it's like there are certain things you're gonna, like you said, every time you say yes to something, you have to say no to something else, and vice versa. You know what I mean? So that's the biggest thing. And
even growing up like at Ryan too and stuff, when my group of friends would be like, yo, let's do this week or whatever, and I didn't even want to do it, I would just do it because that was just, that was what everyone else was doing. And it was
I was the same exact way.
Yeah. So, and I was too. And but that's part of growing up.
It's part of learning.
We're 24, 25 now. It's like we know this stuff now. And and at the same time too, like like I know personally, like I've just starting to do like creative stuff like music and stuff like that. You start to build a wall naturally to where like the negativity doesn't affect you anymore. And then
that's important.
And we're at the age now where it's like, okay, it's not cool to like bully people anymore. Like, we're not in high school. We don't have cliques and shit like that. So but and this leads to the next thing. So paying it forward. So that's one of the biggest things for me too. Like I always told myself like I want to make the world a better place than I found it.
Right.
So like what do you do to pay it forward?
It's like something as simple as like paying for the person's order in front of you,
Starbucks.
or something like that. We'll go to Starbucks, because someone did that to me before, and I was like, oh my god, like they're so nice, like that just made my day. Like little things like that, or like putting money towards like a charity, or just like helping someone. It's just like the little things will make a big difference.
And I feel all that stuff comes back to you too.
Yeah,
I really think that.
I think that too, like good karma.
Yeah. So I wanted to end this off by giving mental health tips for the audience. The stuff you wrote down. I want to go down the entire list. So let's see. So you wrote down, forgive people who've done you wrong. That's the biggest thing for me too. Like forgiveness is huge because it's a burden off of you.
Even if they didn't say sorry, like I think you just need to like let it go in a way.
For sure. Because it eats you up.
Holding a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
there you are with a quote.
Think of that for a minute.
God
think
damn
of
it.
that.
I know you're like, I'm gonna think about that for the rest of my
Think
life.
of that for a minute.
He's never dropped a bomb like that
Yeah.
on this podcast.
You drink
It's like,
poison
dot, dot,
and
dot.
expect the other person to die, but really you're just hurting. You're killing yourself. Like
That's
when you're
That's true though.
That's big for sure. That's awesome, man.
I'm gonna think about that for a
That's
while.
that was good. Yeah,
put that in your next blog. That quote.
I'm a ponder on that. Nah, so also let the little things go. That's huge too. Travel to somewhere you've never been before. I like that one a lot.
I think that like I went to Texas and I never been to Texas, but like I was just like, wow, like seeing somewhere
Yeah.
new, it's just like so cool.
Yeah, it's
I think
neat.
everyone should like
It opens your-
leave your hometown just for like, even if it's for a weekend, like you will learn so many things.
It opens
It
your
would just
mind
be
up
really cool.
big time.
Definitely crucial.
See
Opens
things
up
you
your
never
mind.
saw before.
Absolutely. Yeah, so try to tell as many stories as you can. That's a big one too.
Which I think all three of us are trying to do right now in
Yeah.
your
Right.
blogs, on the podcast. Like, in a way, all of these podcasts are stories. I
Right.
think that's what the most enjoyable thing for me is about a podcast. Is it's like you're like listening to a story,
Right.
and
you're getting
yeah,
something.
you always like when we do these. I'm taking something from this right now. Like, I'm learning things from you that I'm gonna try to implement into my life. Like
Right.
you can really use people as fuel. You know, like
Yeah. For
sure.
like negative people can cause you to have negative things, but positive people can
Yeah.
help you in so many ways. You
something
know,
you can
It's so true.
something you can build off of for
Yeah.
sure. Not to care about what others may be negatively saying about me or people around me. I mean that just explains.
and that's a
itself.
hard one.
It's a very. I
It is
used to-
hard,
I
yeah.
struggled with that. I remember so I put out my first song, Cheers, like years ago, and it was like I was messing around. I was doing my thing, trying something new, right? And I remember like I would have people say stuff to me or say stuff about me, and I would from people I don't even know. That's the worst
Right.
part.
Right.
And I'm like, all right. I would call my buddy. I'm like, I would like get like, I would beat myself up about it. I'm like, dude, like, when are we gonna get out of here? Like, when are we gonna like do our thing? And he's like, dude, just keep pushing. And it's like now you just like you slowly start to make the best music you can, best stuff you can.
I think you should just like go for like what you truly are passionate about,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, it's like you're living your life, not theirs.
Yeah.
And like some people do it out of like jealousy, like they don't
Right.
want you to
Yeah. And,
do good.
And now I can personally say that I'm a brick wall. Like there's not a single thing you can say to me
I've
that'll.
gotten so much stronger with that too. Like
yeah.
if someone messes with me today, I will tell you, or like
Yeah, for
I
sure.
will let them know that it's
and,
not right.
Yeah, and like I just nothing affects me at all anymore because I'm so confident in myself and
That's
and
important,
what
too.
I'm doing and what me and Nick are doing. It's just like they don't matter.
I mean, at the end of the day, like you just said, like at the end of the day, you're waking up and you're going to sleep on your own. Like
Yeah,
there's
it's
not,
your
it's
day.
you, it's
Uh-huh.
you.
It's
Like
your
there's
life.
no one else controlling that.
For sure.
You know, like
and I tell him that all the time too, man. We're going when me and him are going through our own personal stuff. We just say, dude, like there's no one else going through it but you. At the end of the day, I can sit here and talk to him till I'm blue in the face, but if he's not gonna sit and battle them demons and go through it to get over it, you know, nothing's gonna get fixed.
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
true.
But remind my family and best friends how much I love them. That's
I
big.
think that's important. Like I said, like you have no idea like what the next day is gonna look like.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you don't want to regret like not telling everyone. Like I said,
Yeah.
if you see a pretty girl at the bar, like go tell her.
Shoot your shot. Buy her a
shoot
shot.
your shot.
Shoot your shot. Buy her a
But
shot.
like I will say like I love you a million times to my family members. Like they probably get annoyed, but I don't
That's
care.
so.
I
That
don't
is
even
really
care.
cool though, because that's something that like as weird as it sounds could be hard to do sometimes. Like
Yeah,
For-
that's like a big word.
it's refreshing.
yeah, I mean for me,
It's refreshing to hear.
it's
by the
easy
way.
for me
Yeah.
and my mom. Like it's my mom, so it's like.
Yeah, it's
but I know like me and my dad that I've gotten a lot better with it with him, but like for two guys, sometimes it's hard to
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, me and my dad aren't really like that.
Yeah, so.
Yeah,
We do fist.
and that's okay too.
We do
yeah.
fist bumps.
But
you
it's
know?
important. That's an
It is.
important word, especially for your family.
It does make you feel good when someone said that to you.
Right.
You're
Yeah,
like,
like-
I love you too.
But they want them in my person. Not trying to get too personal. Me and my dad, we do it in different ways. Like we'll sit and watch six
Oh
together.
yeah, you don't
Yeah.
have to say I love you. You can
That's
say
right.
it doing things too. Like
Right.
I
That's
mean,
Yeah.
actions sometimes just show it.
Yeah,
for
speak
sure.
louder than
For
words.
sure. I think this is one of the biggest ones too. These are all big, by the way. But try to be more grateful for what I do have.
yeah.
It's a big one. We talked about
Like
gratitude
I said,
a
like
lot.
the affirmations. Like I think like even if you do 10 things, even if it's 5 things, like just like make a list every day of what you're grateful for, and you're like, wow, I should be more grateful for that. Like,
Yeah.
you ever see that picture? It's someone like walking on the sidewalk, and then it's like a bicycle, and then it's a car. I think it starts off with someone in a wheelchair because like it shows you that like you're in a car, like a messed up car, and you're like, oh, I have like a messed up car, but this person can't.
There's
even
somebody
walk.
walking, taking the bus 2 hours to go.
Wow,
Right.
That's powerful.
That is big, man. That
It is. Like I always think about that because I used to have a Grand Am Pontiac, and we used to call it.
Okay.
I like name my car
I saw that. I noticed it.
Calvin. Love
Calvin.
I love Calvin.
Yeah.
But her name was Penny the Pontiac, and like I used to be like,
So creative.
oh my god, like this car, like it would have the biggest like my sister Harley will probably be watching this and crack up, but like there would be so many things wrong with that car. We just like turn up the radio, like to ignore it. But like now I'm just like so grateful for the car I have, and I'm just like, oh, I love Calvin.
Yeah.
Like I just like
The Pontiac was a lemon.
It's the littlest things that you can be grateful for.
it
Like,
really is, and you have to like make yourself. I feel like
yeah, because like a lot of initial reactions is, why am I going through this? If you're going through something,
Right.
but like sometimes you gotta reverse that and be like, well, all right, well, you know, what do I have?
Right.
What do I have right in front of me that I can be thankful about?
Yeah, and it shows growth too. You know, you're driving a car that
Definitely.
you have to like maybe hold the key a certain way to go.
literally like I can't even
Now
like,
you
it'll
have-
break down all the time.
Yeah, like now you have a car that's like it's nice and it makes you reflect back. I'm like, oh my god, I had that, but at the same time, you gotta be grateful for what you do have, and you know. But the next one is not be so hard on myself when things don't go accordingly.
Like I said
big
too,
one.
like if you set goals and like something doesn't work out, like you can't like you can't beat yourself up about that. Like you
Yeah.
just like learn from what happened and you just like keep going
Right.
towards it. Like I
mean,
think that's important.
That's something I've had a really hard time with is
Like-
just mistakes, like making a
Yeah.
lot, like growing up and making certain mistakes that I wasn't proud of or I didn't think reflected, you know, the type
Yeah.
of person I want to be.
Right.
I would be so like hard on myself about it, looking back on it, like, why did you do that?
And I think you do need to realize too, like it made you into the person you are today too. Like I feel
Facts,
like
yeah.
like the anxiety or like the bullying, like I feel like even with the bullying situation, like now I won't let anyone mess with me. Like before, like I would just like let anyone like walk all over me, but now like I've gotten so much stronger and people will know. Like I said, like if I don't like something or someone's talking to me a certain way, like I will let them know.
And your confidence rubs off on people.
Exactly.
Your energy rubs off on people. If you're a positive girl going out, people are gonna feed off of that. If me and Nick are positive, whatever.
Exactly.
Like people are gonna feed off of that, man, for sure. And then another one is working on my self love. That kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you just like pick out like things that you hate about yourself, like you're just gonna like ruin like yourself. Like if that makes
away your
sense.
momentum. It ruins your
Yeah.
momentum. And the thing that I've learned too, when there's things like that, I remember like there was a period in time where I couldn't get out of my bed. Like I was it's probably like a month or two ago. I like was in my bed the entire week. I didn't do anything. I don't even know if I think we had the podcast, but I didn't film anything. We just didn't do anything. I just couldn't get out of bed because I was just like beating myself up over like my feelings and why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling in my certain situations. But then eventually you realize pain's temporary, and I'm sitting here and I feel great mentally. I'm mentally free, and I'm able to just like enjoy my life. And you know, because you just realize, and you look back on it, you're like, why did I feel like that? Why did I
Right.
feel? And then you can say that for your past relationship too, like, you know, why did I feel it that way? Why did I let someone talk to me that way? Whatever. But
And I think that's still something I'm working on too. Like
yeah,
I always think about that. I'm like, why did I like put myself through that? But you learn from it. Like,
Yeah.
like you learn from
Well,
everything you've gone through.
Exactly. A lot of the things we allow or we put ourselves through is because we don't love ourselves.
for
Right,
sure.
yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
and I think that one, that's probably my favorite one you have, but I think that's a lifelong journey of that because I
Absolutely.
don't think you ever get to a point where you're like, all right, I fully love everything about myself, but
Yeah.
I feel like that's just an everyday thing.
Because that's who we
know?
are as people. You know, we get $1 million. Like, oh, where's my $10 million? We get 10 million. I want 100 million. You know,
Right. The grass is always greener,
But-
you know, like,
But you can channel that in a good way though. Be like, you know, because it feeds your hunger. Like with me and him, we're like, yo, how could we have one camera? Let's get another camera. We want
Right,
this kind of
right.
yeah.
let's do an
We're
event.
working on a bigger table. We got to
Let's
get
get a
little
bigger
bit-
table.
It's a little,
Nice.
it's a little
Little
bit,
goals.
It's a little
I like it though.
thin, you know.
It's cute.
Yeah. Little goals are big, and it definitely helps with fulfillment, which is a whole other conversation. But in the last,
Self love so important.
Yeah.
Like I think that's something I've like definitely. I feel like just in like I don't even know, but like I feel like that's like the biggest thing throughout this whole year. I think that's something that changed for me a lot.
And I think it's reflective too of all the choices you make. Like
sure.
for me, looking back, a lot of the mistakes I've made or bad choices was because I didn't like myself, honestly, and it was just it would be like self-sabotage in a lot of ways, you know, because I was like, who am I to deserve anything, you know, the type of thing.
Yeah,
So
you have to realize like you're unique for a reason. Like no one's you. Like no one will ever be you.
Right.
And you have to like be grateful for like what you are. As a
yeah, and
person.
you stress that. I have that written down in my notes too. Also, make a bucket list of things you've never done before. That's a fun little thing you can
Like
do.
I
Jump
said,
out
like
of a
jumping
plane.
out of
Jump out of a
airplane.
plane. It was dope.
But I saw a video with Will Smith, and he jumped out of an airplane, and he was like, "I love life now." Like he's just saying, like the feeling he got after that. Like I don't
Can't
know.
imagine. It's probably
it opens-
something like
It opens your
Like,
horizon.
yeah, maybe I'll regret it when I'm doing it, but
Yeah.
maybe the second your feet leave the
yeah,
plane, but
or like in the plane, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think just like things like that, like I think I definitely want to see the world. That's something I want to do, like travel a
pretty
lot.
cool.
Obviously now it's like a little with Corona,
difficult.
but
Yeah.
And then another thing about travel and that we didn't mention is being around different like cultures, being around different ways of life
People.
can change your perspective on a lot
Yeah.
too. Because if you're just in this bubble around the same thing all the time, like
Yeah. Nothing's
You
gonna
know?
change. It's like it's like what they call it. Like you do the same thing and expect a different result. That's like it's
the definition of insanity.
Yeah,
even
for
in like
sure.
relationships too, like I said, like my past relationship, and then like now that I'm in a new one, like finding someone that's
Leave that. It's fine.
okay.
Got
Finding someone that is gonna like help you grow too is so important. But like you find that you can find that in yourself too. But like I think the biggest thing for me, like my boyfriend like helped me out through a lot. Like and it's crazy because I didn't realize like since the beginning it's been like 9 months now. But like I've grown so much just like these past 9 months, and I think like finding someone like that too. Like if you're in an unhealthy relationship, I think that it's the worst thing for you,
I mean,
honestly.
it makes you appreciate the healthy one even more. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And-
exactly. And I like realize stuff
Yeah.
now that I'm happy.
No, and no disrespect to people who maybe are in that relationship or the one,
Oh yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
no.
It's because we're all growing. We're all and you just wish them the best, and that's really it, man.
Yeah,
you just
definitely.
you know what I mean. No disrespect, no love lost, no love, whatever. But because it's all
Life
a journey.
goes on.
It's all a journey.
Life goes on.
and
You-
you just at the end of the day, you can forgive them, forgive yourself, and make peace with it. And
Yeah.
at the end, and it's all love. But
That's the biggest thing is just making peace with it.
Oh
Like
yeah.
for sure. And I'm glad and shout out to him, man, because I could tell you guys are very happy, and I think it's
Yeah.
really nice to see. It's really nice to see
Thanks.
somebody who
I
brings
am
out
really
the
happy.
good, and then it's good to see
awesome.
somebody who brings out the best in you for sure. But I wanted to touch off. So we'll end off on this note. But I wanted to touch on this to people listening, how like the importance of finding fulfillment in what you want and what you want to do with your life. If there's something you want to do, if you want to make a blog, if you want to start a podcast, you want to make a song, just do it. You know what I mean? Like, because like I said, we're in a culture and then we're in this bubble that people are just scared to do it. And it's really refreshing to see someone like you who,
Thank you.
I've always known you at Ryan, but I never knew you had anxiety like that. I never really, and it's just refreshing to see more and more people who are starting to become comfortable and okay with speaking up and, just doing their thing and being unshameful about it or unforgiving about it, unapologetic about it, because those are the people that are going to help other people in the Northeast.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like you said, like this like little bubble. I think like if we all did the same thing, like we would just be doing the same thing. Like that's so boring.
It's like
I
robots,
Feel
like-
yeah, we're all like unique. We all have like different like wants and like hobbies and stuff. I think you should just like really express that, because at the end of the day, it's your life and it's not theirs.
And
don't-
God has
Just go
given
for it.
God has given everyone different gifts,
Right.
to use in the world to help whatever
Yeah.
whatever
I
it
truly
is.
believe that too. Like
Yeah.
everyone has a certain gift.
And you start to realize too that like we talked about before, like, oh, I want everyone to like me. It's gonna naturally filter out the people that aren't meant to be in your life. So it's like, why even stress about it?
100%.
You know what I'm saying? But
Like losing friends isn't a bad thing if they're not good for you.
For sure.
Like, I think that's
You
so
gotta
important too.
I think it's the most important thing that we're hinting at is you got to be willing to walk away from anything that's like
that's
anything
doing you well.
that's detrimental to your life. You got to be willing to walk away from it. And even if they hate you for it, even if it's one of your best friends and they're like, man, like if they're
Yeah.
mad at you for it,
because they're not
You
gonna
know, whatever,
They're
so-
not gonna get it because they're the one that's afflicted. So it's
Right.
like,
Right.
you know what I'm
Right.
saying? So yeah, this was episode 13 of The Loft with Kerry Dunphy. Thank you
Thanks
so much for coming
having
on.
me.
And then-
I'm honored. My first
Yeah.
interview.
you're welcome. It was awesome. It was a great conversation. Thank you for coming on. And I wanted to give you the opportunity to tell everybody like where they
Yeah.
can find you and
Sure, yeah. So you literally just go to KDunphDiaries.com, and I start off like a little description saying like it's mostly for people in their 20s, just like more relatable, but like I am happy to have anyone. Like it's not like a age
Yeah.
sort of thing
Yeah.
or anything really.
Yeah, that'll all be tagged in the description. She has a lot of cool blogs, a lot of cool people on that she talks about, a lot of good advice. Honestly, personally, I have a whole notes thing on my laptop that I've personally learned just from reading
I
your
know.
stuff.
We
which
were reading
Thank
through
you.
all of them like
Yeah, which is-
crazy.
I
Like,
think that's the biggest thing. Like I always wanted to help people. So like combining the two, like writing and helping people, I like formed KDunph Diaries, and I hope that it'll grow, but like that's the main gist of it.
It will. I mean,
You're doing great things. Keep it up.
If
Thank you.
your intentions are pure, it's very nice. It's aesthetically nice to look at in terms of like the coloring, and
Thank
it's
you.
very easy to digest when you're reading it for sure.
Good to hear. Thank you.
And I'm glad that we even had this conversation because I didn't think we would ever have this conversation. You know, you never know. You know.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Who would have thought us three would be sitting here?
Yeah. But yeah, this is episode 13 of the Loft. Kevin Nichols, that's Kerry Dunphy, that's Nick Huser, and peace, guys.
See you guys.
Peace.
Yeah.